Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His ship had been exploring the outer edge of the Kepler 442 system for 3 weeks now. The mission was simple: map new worlds and look for signs of life. Jake never expected to find what appeared on his screens that morning. "Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching fast," called out Lieutenant Sarah Bell from her station. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and worry. "They're not human ships." Jake moved closer to the tactical display. 12 large vessels were heading straight toward the Discovery. Their design was unlike anything in human databases. The ships looked like giant crystals with metal wrapped around them. They moved in perfect formation, like they had done this many times before. "Send out a standard first contact message," Jake ordered. "Let them know we come in peace." The response came within minutes, but not in the way Jake expected. A beam of light shot out from the lead alien ship and surrounded the Discovery. Jake felt his ship stop moving completely, held in place by some kind of energy field. "Captain Morrison," came a voice over the communication system. The words were spoken in perfect English, though the voice sounded strange and hollow. "I am Ambassador Vex High of the Zephyrian Collective. You will prepare to receive me aboard your vessel." Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed as confused as he felt. "How do they know our language?" whispered Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's science officer. "We'll find out soon enough," Jake replied. He turned to his security chief. "Lieutenant Garcia, have your team ready, but keep weapons lowered. We don't want to start a fight we can't win." 30 minutes later, Jake stood in the Discovery's main conference room. The alien who materialized there through some kind of transport beam was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. Vex High wore robes that seemed to shift colors as he moved. "Commander Morrison," Vex High said, his voice now coming from a small device on his chest. "Your species has made a grave mistake." Jake tried to stay calm. "What mistake would that be?" "You have entered sacred space," Vex High replied. His large eyes seemed to look right through Jake. "The Kepler 442 system and 17 others in this region belong to the Collective. No primitive species is allowed here." "Primitive?" Jake asked. He felt his temper rising but forced himself to stay professional. "We're just exploring. We didn't know anyone claimed this area." Vex High made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your ignorance does not excuse your crime. We have watched your species for some time now. 8 billion beings living on one small world, barely able to travel between your own planets. You have no right to venture into deep space." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew better than to reveal too much. The alien clearly didn't know about human colonies beyond Earth. That information might be useful later. "What do you want from us?" Jake asked instead. "The Collective offers you one chance," Vex High said. He waved his hand, and a holographic image appeared showing the solar system. "All human vessels must return to this boundary and never leave. Again, your species will accept collective oversight of your activities. In return, we will allow you to continue existing. And if we refuse?" Vex High's expression didn't change, but his voice became colder. "Then your species will be removed from this galaxy. We have done this before with other primitive races who did not know their place." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How long do we have to decide?" 72 hours from now," Vex High said. "Send your answer to these coordinates." Another holographic display showed a location near Jupiter. "Do not attempt to deceive us. We will know if you try to hide any ships or colonies." With that, the alien vanished in the same beam of light that had brought him. Jake stood alone in the conference room for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. Humanity had just been given an ultimatum by a species that clearly had superior technology. "Sarah, get me a direct line to Earth Command," Jake called out as he returned to the bridge. "Priority Alpha encryption." The call took several minutes to connect due to the distance, but eventually, President Lisa Carter's face appeared on the main screen. She was in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors. "Commander Morrison, we received your initial report," President Carter said. "How serious is this threat?" "Very serious, Madam President," Jake replied. "Their ships are more advanced than ours, and they clearly have the power to back up their threats. They're demanding complete surrender." General Kate Rodriguez leaned into view. "What's your assessment of their military capabilities?" "Unknown, but significant," Jake answered. "They stopped our ship without any visible effort. Their technology is definitely beyond ours in some areas." Admiral Ben Parker joined the conversation. "We need to buy time." "Commander, return to Earth immediately. We'll have a full briefing ready when you arrive." As the Discovery began its journey home, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right about the aliens' confidence. Vex High had seemed very sure that humanity would be easy to defeat. But Jake knew things about human capabilities that weren't in any public records. 3 days later, Jake sat in a secure briefing room deep beneath the Pentagon. President Carter was there, along with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and several people Jake didn't recognize. One of them, a man in his 50s with gray hair, stepped forward. "Commander Morrison, I'm Dr. Ryan Hayes," the man said. "I run a program called the Prometheus Protocol. What you're about to hear is classified at the highest levels." Dr. Hayes activated a holographic display that showed star charts Jake had never seen before. "The aliens think Earth has 8 billion humans and limited space travel. They're wrong on both counts." The display zoomed out to show dozens of star systems with human symbols. "Our actual population is over 50 billion, spread across 43 star systems. We've been establishing colonies and mining operations for the past 30 years, but we've kept them hidden." Jake stared at the display in amazement. "How is that possible?" "Because we've been preparing for this day," General Rodriguez answered. "Every deep space mission has had a secondary purpose, establishing hidden bases and manufacturing facilities. The aliens see what we want them to see." Admiral Parker stood up. "Commander, your encounter wasn't the first. We've been tracking alien movements for years. We knew eventually someone would challenge us, so we prepared." Dr. Hayes brought up another display showing ship designs Jake had never seen. "These are our real military vessels. They're hidden throughout human space, waiting for activation. The ships you see protecting Earth are just for show." President Carter looked directly at Jake. "Commander, tomorrow we're going to send our response to the collective. We're going to tell them no." "Are we ready for war?" Jake asked. "We've been ready for war for decades," Admiral Parker replied. "The question is whether they're ready for what we really are." Dr. Hayes smiled grimly. "The collective is about to learn that humanity didn't become a spacefaring species by accident. We've been planning this expansion since before you were born, Commander. Every colony, every ship, every weapon system has been designed for one purpose: protecting human civilization from exactly this kind of threat." Jake felt a mix of excitement and fear. "What happens next?" "Next," President Carter said, "we show the collective what happens when someone declares war on Earth. They think they're fighting primitive humans. They have no idea what we really are." As the meeting ended, Jake realized that the next few days would change everything. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking humanity was weak and defenseless. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. The war for humanity's future was about to begin, and Jake suspected the collective had no idea what they had just started. The 72-hour deadline had passed 12 minutes ago. Fleet Commander Zar Thick stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Celestial Hammer, watching Earth grow larger on the main display. Behind him stretched a formation of 200 Zephyrian warships, the largest fleet the collective had assembled in 50 years. "Commander, we are receiving no response from the human government," reported his communications officer. "Their silence confirms their defiance." Zarthik nodded with satisfaction. He had expected this outcome. Primitive species always chose to fight rather than accept their proper place in the galaxy. It made the conquest more satisfying when they finally broke. "Begin scanning their orbital defenses," Zarthik ordered. "I want to know the location of every human military asset before we begin the cleansing." The tactical officer worked at his station for several minutes before looking up. With confusion, "Sir, this is strange. They appear to have very few orbital weapons platforms. Most of their defenses seem to be on the planet's surface." "Ground-based defenses?" Zarthik laughed. "How primitive. They still think wars are fought on planetary surfaces. This will be easier than expected." What Zarthik couldn't see was Captain Amy Collins standing in the command center of Aurora Station, humanity's primary orbital defense platform. The station appeared to be a simple communications relay on alien sensors, but it was actually the nerve center of Earth's real defensive network. "Collins to all units," Amy spoke into her headset. "The collective fleet is taking the bait. They're focusing on our decoy installations just like we hoped." 3,000 kilometers away, Commander Luke Harris sat in the captain's chair of the stealth destroyer New Geneva. His ship was completely invisible to alien sensors, hidden by technology the collective had never encountered. Around him, 47 other human warships waited in perfect silence. "Harris here," Luke replied to Amy's transmission. "My ships are in position. The enemy is moving exactly as predicted." "Confirmed," came another voice over the comm system. Captain Nina Foster was commanding the battlecruiser Sierra Leone from a position behind Earth's moon. "They're not even scanning for stealth signatures. This is going to be a turkey shoot." Back on the Celestial Hammer, Zarthik was feeling confident about his easy victory. "Begin the attack on their primary cities," he commanded. "Target their government centers first. Once their leaders are dead, the rest will surrender quickly." The collective fleet opened fire with their plasma cannons, sending streams of superheated energy toward Earth's major population centers. The weapons struck their targets with devastating effect, creating massive explosions that could be seen from space. "Direct hits on all targets," reported the weapons officer. "Their cities are burning, Commander." But Zarthik's celebration was short-lived. Within moments, new readings appeared on his tactical display. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from multiple locations around the planet. Something is powering up." What the aliens had destroyed were elaborate decoys, built to look like real cities from space, but actually empty structures designed to fool enemy sensors. The real human population centers were hidden underground or built into mountain ranges where they couldn't be seen. "Now," Amy Collins said quietly into her comm system. Luke Harris smiled as he gave the order his crew had been waiting months to hear. "All ships, decloak and engage. Show them what human engineering can really do." The space around Earth suddenly filled with human warships as they dropped their stealth fields. The New Geneva and her sister ships appeared like ghosts materializing from nothing, their quantum phase weapons already charging for the first strike. Zarthik stared at his display in shock. "Where did they come from? Our sensors showed empty space." "Sir, 48 enemy vessels have just appeared," his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "They're moving to attack positions." "Impossible," Zarthik muttered. "Our intelligence said they had no advanced ships." The first human weapons fire answered his confusion. Luke Harris had targeted the 3 largest collective dreadnoughts with his quantum phase cannons. The energy beams passed right through the alien shields as if they weren't there, striking the hull directly and tearing massive holes in the enemy ships. "Shield penetration confirmed," Luke reported to the fleet. "Their defensive systems can't stop our weapons." Captain Nina Foster brought the Sierra Leone around Earth's moon at full speed, her gravitational manipulation weapons already locked onto a cluster of enemy cruisers. "Foster, to all ships, watch this." She activated her primary weapon system, creating a localized gravity well that crushed 3 collective ships like tin cans. The alien vessels imploded under forces they had no defense against, their hulls collapsing inward until nothing remained but compressed metal and debris. "What kind of weapons are those?" Zarthik shouted at his science officer. "Our shields should protect us from any primitive technology." "I don't know, sir," the officer replied. "They're using principles of physics I don't understand. Our databases have no record of such capabilities." The battle was turning into a massacre. Human ships moved with precision and coordination that the collective had never seen before. Every attack was perfectly timed, every maneuver calculated to maximum effect. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. Commander Tony Garcia brought his heavy cruiser Portland's Revenge into the fight, launching swarms of AI-controlled fighters that adapted their tactics in real time. The small ships moved like living things, dodging alien weapons fire while striking weak points in enemy armor with surgical precision. "Garcia to Fleet Command," Tony reported. "Enemy formation is breaking apart. They can't handle our adaptive combat systems." Amy Collins watched the battle from Aurora Station with grim satisfaction. "All ships maintain formation. Don't let any of them escape to report back to their homeworld." But some collective ships were already trying to retreat. Zarthik realized his fleet was facing total destruction and ordered a general withdrawal. "All ships fall back to jump distance. We must warn the Collective Council." "Not so fast," came Luke Harris's voice over an open channel. The alien commander was shocked to hear a human voice speaking directly to him. "You came here to destroy our world. Now you get to see what happens when you threaten humanity." The New Geneva and 5 other human destroyers moved to block the collective retreat route. Their weapons charged for another volley, this time targeting the Celestial Hammer directly. "Sir, they're jamming our jump drives," reported Zarthik. "Engineering officer, we can't escape." Zarthik felt fear for the first time in his military career. His mighty fleet, which had conquered 12 worlds for the collective, was being torn apart by ships that shouldn't exist. "Send a distress signal to the homeworld. Tell them the humans are not what we thought." "I'm trying, sir, but they're blocking our long-range communications too." Captain Nina Foster's voice came over the alien communication system. "Commander Zarthik, this is Captain Foster of the Human Defense Fleet. Your ships are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now, and we'll allow survivors to return home with a message." Zarthik looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. Half fleet was already destroyed, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. His proud warships were no match for technology he couldn't understand. "What is your message?" Zarthik asked, his voice defeated. "Tell your collective council that Earth is under human protection," Amy Collins replied from Aurora Station. "Tell them that humanity is not the primitive species they thought we were. And tell them that if they want to avoid total war, they better send someone who can negotiate instead of conquer." The battle lasted 6 hours and 12 minutes. When it ended, only 37 collective ships remained out of the original 200. The rest were either destroyed or drifting dead in space, their crews killed or captured. Luke Harris brought the New Geneva alongside the crippled Celestial Hammer. "Commander Zarthik, you're going home with a new understanding of what humanity really is. We're not the primitive species your intelligence reports claimed. We're something much more dangerous." As the surviving collective ships limped away from Earth, carrying news of their defeat, Captain Amy Collins sent a message to all human colonies throughout the galaxy. "Phase 1 complete. The enemy has taken the bait. Prepare for Phase 2. Across 43 star systems, human military commanders received the signal they had been waiting for. The collective had declared war on Earth, but they had no idea they were about to face the full might of human civilization. The real war was just beginning. High Chancellor Mordun stood in the center of the collective's Supreme Council chamber, his 6 arms trembling with rage as he watched the recordings from the battle at Earth. The massive holographic display showed human ships destroying collective vessels with weapons that shouldn't exist. "This is impossible," Mordun hissed through his translator device. "Our intelligence reports said the humans had barely achieved spaceflight. How do they possess such advanced technology?" War Admiral Kreshtar, the collective's most decorated military commander, studied the battle footage with growing concern. His reptilian features showed no emotion, but his tail twitched nervously as he analyzed the human tactics. "The humans fought with coordination I have never seen before," Kreshtar admitted. "Their ships moved as one mind, anticipating our every strategy. This was not luck or primitive desperation. This was planned." Around the council chamber, representatives from the 12-member species of the collective whispered among themselves in various languages. The defeat at Earth had shaken their confidence in their military superiority. "Commander Zarthik's report is troubling," said Council Member Veltara, her crystalline form glowing with agitation. "He claims the humans have colonies throughout this sector, but our scouts have found no evidence of such expansion." Mordun's eyes focused on the surviving fleet commander, who had just arrived from Earth. Zarthik stood before the council, his uniform torn and his pride shattered. "Tell us again what you witnessed," Mordun demanded. "The humans were ready for us," Zarthik replied, his voice hollow. "Their ships appeared from nowhere, using stealth technology we cannot detect. Their weapons passed through our shields like they were not there. They knew exactly how we would attack and had prepared counters for every move." War Admiral Kreshtar stepped forward. "How many ships did they have?" "At least 50 in the initial engagement," Zarthik answered. "But their communications suggested many more throughout their territory. They spoke of colonies and fleets we never detected." Mordun slammed his fist on the council table. "Impossible. We have monitored Earth for decades. They have one world with primitive technology." "Perhaps," said Dr. Nimrock, the collective's chief scientist. "We have been observing what they wanted us to see." The council chamber fell silent at this suggestion. The idea that a primitive species could fool collective intelligence for decades was almost unthinkable. Meanwhile, in a secure facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Admiral Ben Parker was coordinating with military commanders across human space. The holographic display in front of him showed 43 star systems, each marked with human colony symbols. "Report from Tau Ceti," came Captain Tony Garcia's voice from the speakers. "My fleet is ready for deployment. We have 36 ships fully armed and operational." Commander Rachel Stone's voice joined from Proxima Centauri. "Mining operation. Defenses are active. We've converted our industrial ships to military configuration. Another 20 vessels ready for combat." General Pete Murphy spoke next from the generation ship Europa's Children, currently stationed in the Alpha Centauri system. "Sir, our mobile fleet stands at full readiness. 15 heavy cruisers and support vessels ready to move on your command." "Admiral." Parker smiled grimly as more reports came in from human colonies throughout the galaxy. Each settlement that the collective thought didn't exist was actually a carefully planned military installation. "Excellent work, everyone," Parker replied. "Dr. Susan Lee, please brief our commanders on the enemy's likely next move." Dr. Lee, head of the Colonial Defense Network, stepped forward to address the holographic gathering. "Intelligence suggests the collective will respond with overwhelming force. They cannot accept that a primitive species defeated them. Expect their main war fleet within 2 weeks." Captain Eric Davis, commanding the heavy carrier Washington's Dream from the Vega system, raised a concern. "Admiral, what's our intelligence on their full military capabilities?" "More extensive than they realize," Parker answered. "We've been intercepting their communications for 15 years. We know their fleet compositions, their tactics, even their supply lines. They've been fighting primitive species for so long, they've become predictable." Back in collective space, War Admiral, Kreshtar was assembling the largest military force in collective history. 2,000 warships from across 12 worlds gathered in the staging area near the collective capital. "This time we will not underestimate them," Kreshtar told his assembled fleet commanders. "We will bring sufficient force to crush any resistance." Captain Morvik of the dreadnought Infinite Glory raised a concern. "War Admiral, what if their technology is truly superior to ours?" "Then we will overwhelm them with numbers," Kreshtar replied. "No species can stand against 2,000 warships, regardless of their technology." What Kreshtar didn't know was that Captain Lisa Wright, aboard the human intelligence vessel Shadow Dancer, was monitoring their communications from a hidden position just outside the collective staging area. Her ship's advanced stealth systems made it completely invisible to alien sensors. "Right to Earth Command," Lisa whispered into her communicator. "The collective is massing their main fleet. Count as 2,000 vessels, including their newest dreadnoughts." Admiral Parker received the transmission with satisfaction. "Confirmed, Captain Wright. Continue monitoring and report any changes to their deployment." Parker turned to his staff officers. "Gentlemen, ladies, this is what we've been preparing. 4. The collective is bringing their entire military to our doorstep. Time to show them what the Terran defense perimeter really means." Dr. Susan Lee activated the strategic display, showing human defensive positions. Each colony has been positioned not just for resources, but for overlapping fields of fire. When the collective attacks Earth, they'll find themselves surrounded. "What about their superior numbers?" asked General Kate Rodriguez. "Numbers mean nothing if you can't use them effectively," Parker replied. "Their ships are designed to fight primitive opponents in straightforward battles. They've never faced adaptive warfare on this scale." Captain Amy Collins joined the conference from Aurora Station. "Sir, our analysis of the first battle showed their command structure is rigid and hierarchical. When we disrupt their communications, their individual ships can't adapt." "Exactly," Parker agreed. "We're not going to fight them ship to ship. We're going to fight them system to system, using every advantage our distributed network provides." The collective war fleet began its journey toward Earth 3 days later. War Admiral Kreshtar was confident that his overwhelming force would crush human resistance quickly. His ships moved in perfect formation, a display of military might that had intimidated dozens of species. "Maintain communication silence until we reach the human system," Kreshtar ordered. "I want complete surprise when we arrive." But surprise was impossible when Captain Lisa Wright was tracking their every move. Her reports allowed Admiral Parker to position human forces exactly where they would be most effective. "All colonial commanders, this is Parker," the Admiral broadcast to human forces throughout their territory. "The enemy is coming in force, but they're walking into our trap. Each of you knows your part in the defense plan." Captain Tony Garcia acknowledged from Tau Ceti. "Roger that, Admiral. My ships are moving to intercept position Alpha 7. Commander Rachel Stone confirmed from Proxima Centauri. Industrial Defense Fleet deploying to position Beta 3. General Pete Murphy reported from Europa's Children. Mobile fleet moving to flanking position Gamma 1. As the collective fleet approached Earth, they had no idea they were not attacking one world defended by primitive humans. They were entering a carefully planned kill zone created by a species that had been preparing for this moment for decades. "Admiral." Parker looked at the tactical display showing collective ships entering human space. "The hunters are about to become the hunted," he said quietly. They think they're bringing overwhelming force against Earth. They don't realize they're surrounded by every human colony in this part of the galaxy. The second phase of the war was about to begin, and the collective was walking straight into humanity's trap. War Admiral Kreshtar stood on the bridge of his flagship as the massive collective fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 2,000 warships stretched out in perfect formation behind him, the largest military force the galaxy had seen in centuries. "Excellent," Kreshtar said with satisfaction. "The humans will see our fleet and surrender immediately. No species can stand against such overwhelming power." His tactical officer looked up from his station with confusion. "Sir, I'm detecting human ships throughout the system, but they're not in defensive positions around Earth. They seem to be scattered everywhere." Kreshtar moved to examine the display. Human vessels appeared to be randomly positioned throughout the solar system, with no apparent strategy or coordination. "Amateurs," he muttered. "They don't even know how to form a proper battle line." What Kreshtar couldn't see was that each human ship was exactly where Admiral Parker had placed them for maximum effect. Captain Amy Collins watched from Aurora station as the alien fleet took the bait, moving deeper into the solar system exactly as predicted. "All units hold positions," Amy transmitted on encrypted channels. "Let them come to us." Meanwhile, in the deepest vault beneath Geneva, Switzerland, Commander Lisa Wright sat in front of a classified computer terminal. Her clearance level was higher than most government officials, and what she was about to reveal would change everything the collective thought they knew about humanity. "Dr. Hayes, are you certain we should release this information?" Lisa asked. Dr. Ryan Hayes, director of the Prometheus Protocol, nodded grimly. "The collective needs to understand what they've awakened. It's time they learned the truth about human origins." Lisa began typing commands into the secure system, accessing files that had been classified for over 200 years. The archaeological evidence that had been hidden from the public, the genetic studies that showed impossible results, and the deep space monitoring data that painted a terrifying picture of humanity's past. "Uploading data package to all colonial commanders," Lisa announced. "They need to know why we really came to Earth." Back in space, the collective fleet was advancing toward Earth when something unexpected happened. Human ships began appearing from every direction, not just from Earth's vicinity, but from deep space positions the aliens hadn't detected. "Sir, new contacts appearing on all vectors," reported Kreshtar's sensor officer. "Human vessels are emerging from 17 different star systems." Kreshtar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 17 systems? That's impossible. Our intelligence shows they have only one world. Captain Tony Garcia's voice came over open communication channels. "Collective Fleet, this is Captain Garcia of the Tau Ceti Defense Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now." "Tau Ceti?" Kreshtar repeated. "There are no human colonies in Tau Ceti." Commander Rachel Stone joined the communication. "This is Commander Stone of the Proxima Centauri Mining Defense Fleet. War Admiral Kreshtar. Your intelligence has been wrong for decades." More human voices filled the communication channels as captains from dozens of hidden colonies announced their presence. Each name revealed another star system that the collective had never suspected contained human settlements. "This is impossible," Kreshtar muttered. "We monitored their expansion. They never left their home system." Captain Eric Davis, commanding Washington's Dream, provided the answer. "War Admiral, what you monitored was what we wanted you to see. Every probe you sent, every scout ship you deployed, we tracked and fed false information. You've been watching a carefully constructed lie." On Earth, Admiral Parker was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. His command center showed real-time positions of human forces from 43 star systems, all converging. "On the collective fleet, all units begin Phase 3, Parker commanded. Show them what distributed warfare really means. The attack began simultaneously from all directions. Human ships that had been hiding throughout the galaxy opened fire at the same moment, creating a coordinated assault that the rigid collective command structure couldn't handle. Kreshtar watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet was torn apart by attacks coming from everywhere at once. His ships couldn't form defensive formations because they were being hit from above, below, and all sides. How are they coordinating this? He demanded of his communications officer. Their ships are separated by light years, but they're acting as one unit. The answer came from Captain Lisa Wright, whose intelligence vessel Shadow Dancer had been monitoring collective communications throughout the battle. Because we've had faster-than-light communication networks for 30 years, War Admiral. While you were studying our primitive radio signals, we were building quantum communication systems you can't detect or jam. General Pete Murphy brought Europa's children and her escort fleet into the battle from the Alpha Centauri system. His mobile fleet struck the collective rearguard with devastating precision, using weapons designed specifically to counter alien shield technology. Murphy to all units, the general reported. Enemy rear formations are breaking. They can't handle attacks from multiple vectors. Kreshtar realized his fleet was facing total destruction. All ships, fall back to hyperspace. Jump points. We need to regroup. But Admiral Parker had anticipated this move. Negative, War Admiral, came Parker's voice over the alien communication system. We've been jamming your jump drive since you entered the system. Nobody leaves until we're finished. Talking. For the first time in his military career, Kreshtar felt true fear. His massive fleet was trapped in a system they thought contained only primitive humans, being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. What do you want? Kreshtar asked, his voice defeated. Commander Lisa Wright's voice came through the communication system. We want you to understand what you've really done, War Admiral. You didn't declare war on a primitive species. You declared war on the survivors of an intergalactic conflict. The data package that Lisa had prepared began transmitting to every collective ship. Archaeological evidence showing that humans hadn't evolved on Earth, but had arrived there as refugees. Genetic analysis proving that human DNA contained markers from a completely different galaxy. Deep space monitoring records showing the destruction of humanity's original home. This is impossible, Kreshtar whispered as he reviewed the data. You're saying humans aren't native to this galaxy? Dr. Ryan Hayes' voice joined the transmission from Earth. 300 years ago, our home galaxy was consumed by a war that destroyed entire star systems. Humanity survived by fleeing across the intergalactic void to find a new home. Captain Amy Collins continued the revelation. Earth wasn't our destination, War Admiral. It was our refugee camp. We spent 2 centuries recovering from the war that destroyed our original civilization. The implications hit Kreshtar like a physical blow. You mean the primitive technology we observed was not your real capability? General Sandra Price, speaking from a classified facility in Colorado, provided the final piece of the puzzle. Every human child learns combat tactics alongside basic education. Every colony serves dual purposes as civilian settlement and military base. Every ship in our fleet was designed based on lessons learned from a war that consumed galaxies. Admiral. Parker's voice became deadly serious. War Admiral, you need to understand what the collective has awakened. We didn't become a spacefaring species through gradual exploration. We became refugees who spent 3 centuries preparing for the day someone would threaten our new home. Captain Eric Davis added the most chilling revelation. The weapons we're using against you aren't our most advanced technology, War Admiral. They're the basic defensive systems we built to protect our colonies. You haven't seen what we're really capable of. Kreshtar looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. Half his fleet was already destroyed, and the humans showed no signs of stopping. His proud collective navy was being dismantled by what he now realized were the survivors of an intergalactic war. "What happens now?" Kreshtar asked quietly. "Now," Admiral Parker replied, "you take a message back to your collective council. Tell them that humanity offers them one chance to avoid the same fate that befell our original enemies. Complete surrender or total destruction." The collective fleet, once 2,000 strong, limped away from Earth with less than 300 surviving ships. They carried with them the terrifying knowledge that they had not attacked a primitive species, but had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. High Chancellor Mordoon sat alone in his private chamber, staring at the holographic display that showed the ruins of his once mighty war fleet. Less than 300 ships had returned from the battle at Earth, and their reports painted a picture that shattered everything the collective believed about their place in the galaxy. The door chimed softly, and War Admiral Kreshtar entered. His proud military bearing was gone, replaced by the hollow expression of a commander who had seen his forces destroyed by an enemy he never understood. "The Council is demanding answers," Mordoon said, without looking up from the display. "They want to know how we lost 2,000 ships to a primitive species." "Because they aren't primitive," Kreshtar replied quietly. "Chancellor, the humans have been playing a game we didn't even know existed. Everything we thought we knew about them was a lie." Mordoon finally looked at his military commander. "Explain." "They're refugees from another galaxy," Kreshtar said. "Survivors of a war so devastating it destroyed their entire home. They've been hiding on Earth, rebuilding their strength and preparing for the day someone would threaten them again." Before Mordoon could respond, his communication system activated. President Lisa Carter's face appeared on the holographic display. Transmitted from Earth across the vast distance of space. "High Chancellor Mordoon," President Carter said, her voice calm but firm. "I believe it's time we had a conversation." Mordoon straightened in his chair, trying to regain some dignity. "You have destroyed our fleet and shattered our power. What more do you want?" "Peace," Carter replied simply. "But peace on human terms." The transmission expanded to show other human officials. Admiral Parker stood beside the president, along with several people Mordoon didn't recognize, but whose presence suggested they held significant authority. "The collective will integrate into human space as a protected client state," President Carter continued. "Your 12 worlds will maintain local governance, but all military and expansion activities will be coordinated through human oversight." Mordoon felt his anger rising. "You expect us to become your subjects?" "We expect you to accept reality," Admiral Parker interjected. "Chancellor, your collective spent centuries conquering weaker species because you had superior technology. Now you've met a species with even more advanced capabilities. The choice is simple: peaceful integration or total destruction." Captain Amy Collins, newly promoted to Colonial Administrator, joined the transmission. "Chancellor, we're offering you something no previous conqueror gave their victims: a chance to keep your culture and govern your own worlds. All we ask is that you accept human leadership in military matters." War Admiral Kreshtar stepped forward. "What guarantees do we have that you won't simply destroy us later?" Commander Jake Morrison, now serving as humanity's first galactic ambassador, answered that question. "Because we need you, War Admiral. The forces that destroyed our original home galaxy may still exist out there. We need allies, not conquered slaves." The holographic display changed to show deep space monitoring data that made Mordoon's blood run cold. Strange energy signatures were being detected at the very edge of the galaxy, signals that matched patterns from humanity's ancient enemy. "Our long-range sensors have picked up traces of the same technology that destroyed our first civilization," Dr. Ryan Hayes explained. "They may have followed us across the intergalactic void. If they have, this galaxy will need every defense we can muster." Captain Nina Foster appeared on the transmission from her new command, the advanced battleship Terra Prime. Chancellor, humanity learned something important from losing our first home. Unity is the only defense against total destruction. We're offering the collective a chance to be part of that unity. Morden looked at the data showing the mysterious signals from beyond the galaxy's edge. The implications were terrifying. If humanity's original enemies had indeed followed them, the collective's technology would be useless against such a threat. What would integration mean for our people? Morden asked. Captain Amy Collins activated a new display showing proposed administrative structures. Local governance remains in your hands. Cultural practices and traditions are preserved. Your people continue to live on their homeworlds as they always have. But, Admiral Parker added, all military vessels will be integrated into the human defense network. Your ships will be upgraded with human technology, and your crews will train alongside human forces. Commander Luke Harris joined the transmission from his position aboard the New Geneva. Chancellor, we're not asking you to abandon your identity. We're asking you to help us defend this galaxy against threats that could destroy everything we've all built. The door to Morden's easy chamber opened again, and Ambassador Vex High entered. The diplomat who had started this entire conflict looked older and more tired than Morden had ever seen him. Chancellor, Vex High said quietly, I have reviewed all our intelligence files on humanity. Every piece of data we collected over decades of observation was carefully manipulated to show us exactly what they wanted us to see. They are not just militarily superior. They are strategically superior on a level we cannot match. President Carter leaned forward in the transmission. Ambassador Vex High, you delivered an ultimatum to humanity without understanding what you were threatening. Now I'm delivering an ultimatum to the collective. Peaceful integration or face the same fate as our original enemies. What happened to your original enemies? Mordoun asked, though he feared the answer. Dr. Susan Lee, head of the Colonial Defense Network, answered with chilling simplicity. They don't exist anymore, Chancellor. When humanity finally developed the technology to fight back, we didn't just defeat them. We ensured they could never threaten anyone again. The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. Humanity had survived the destruction of their home galaxy and had ultimately destroyed their enemy so completely that an entire species was erased from existence. How long do we have to decide? War Admiral Kreshtar asked. You've already decided, Admiral Parker replied. The moment your fleet attacked Earth, the collective ceased to be an independent power. The question now is whether you'll be willing partners in the defense of this galaxy or reluctant subjects who need constant supervision. Captain Tony Garcia appeared on the transmission from the Tau Ceti colonies. Chancellor, 47 other species have already requested integration into the human defense network after learning what happened to your fleet. You won't be alone in this transition. Commander Rachel Stone joined from Proxima Centauri. The galaxy is changing, Chancellor. Humanity has revealed itself as the dominant military power, and everyone is choosing sides. You can be part of the winning side, or you can continue to resist and face the consequences. Morden looked around at his advisors and military commanders. The fear in their eyes told him everything he needed to know about their chances of continued resistance. What are your terms? Morden asked finally. President Carter smiled, but it wasn't a cruel expression. Full integration within 6 months. Your military commanders will work with Admiral Parker to upgrade your fleets. Captain Collins will oversee the administrative transition, and War Admiral Kreshtar will help us prepare defenses against whatever is coming from beyond the galaxy. And in return? In return, Jake Morrison replied, the collective becomes part of something larger than any single species. You become part of humanity's promise to defend this galaxy against any threat, internal or external. The transmission ended, leaving Mordan alone with his thoughts. The collective had ruled this sector of space for centuries, believing themselves to be the dominant power in the galaxy. In a matter of weeks, they had discovered they were nothing more than children playing at war, while the real powers watched. From the shadows, 3 months later, Captain Eric Davis stood on the bridge of the new galactic defense ship Terra Nova, watching a mixed fleet of human and former collective vessels conduct joint training exercises. The integration had proceeded more smoothly than anyone expected. "Davis to Fleet Command," Eric reported. "Joint Exercise 7 complete. Human and collective crews are working together effectively." Admiral Parker's voice came back over the communication. "System, excellent work, Captain. How are our new allies adapting to human tactics?" "Better than expected, sir. War Admiral Kreshtar has proven to be an excellent strategic mind once he understood our methods." But even as the integration proceeded, the deep space monitoring stations continued to detect troubling signals from beyond the galactic edge. Dr. Ryan Hayes worked around the clock analyzing the data, trying to determine if humanity's ancient enemy had indeed followed them across the void. The collective had declared war on Earth, thinking they were attacking a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened the survivors of an intergalactic conflict who had spent 3 centuries preparing for the next war. Now, as the galaxy united under human leadership, everyone waited to see if that preparation would be enough for what was coming. Commander Jake Morrison stood in his new office as Galactic Ambassador, looking out at the stars and wondering if, somewhere among them, ancient enemies were preparing to finish what they had started in humanity's original home. The collective had learned what humanity really was, but the greatest test was yet to come.